Nina had always taken great delight in the fact that she was a cautious mother. Since her son Jacob was born, she has made it her mission to ensure that his nursery is a secure haven. She has ensured that it is equipped with child-resistant locks on the windows, cushioned crib rails, soft blankets, and a baby monitor that is always at her side. The fact that her 15-month-old son had been missing from his crib for the prior 3 nights was not explained by any of the aforementioned factors. She came dangerously close to having a heart attack the very first time it occurred. Before she went to bed, she had tucked Jacob in, kissed his forehead, and double-checked the baby gate that was located outside his door. On the other hand, when she entered the living room the next morning, she saw him laughing on the floor, surrounded by his stuffed animals, and the golden retriever that belonged to the family, Max, licking his face as if he were acting as an accomplice. How is it? At that time, Jacob was unable to get out of his crib. It was impossible for him to reach the doorknob. Max, on the other hand, had not yet begun to learn how to turn handles. Nina and David, Nina's husband, attributed it to a random occurrence, speculating that maybe they had neglected to secure the gate. On the other hand, when it occurred once again the next night, and then once more the night after that, their uncertainty had transformed into fear. Right at that moment, they made the decision to install a covert camera. There is not only the baby monitor, there is also an actual security camera that is motion activated and has night vision, and it is placed just over Jacob's cot. If anything was taking place, they would be able to observe it. The next morning, Jacob was nowhere to be found. The next time, he was in the hallway, chatting to the cat that belonged to the household. The moment Nina picked up the video on her phone, her hands began to shake intensely. The breath that David took was shallow as he leaned over her shoulder. At first, the video showed Jacob sleeping in a calm and serene manner. The crib began to shake at 2:37 in the morning. It did not roll like a baby. Rather, it seemed as if somebody had pushed it from below. A shadow moved under the crib, and the infrared light from the camera flickered along with it. Then, in a gradual and incomprehensible manner, the teeny tiny hands stretched out from under the mattress. The fingers were frail and pallid, and they curled over the side of the crib. Nina was unable to let forth a scream. A second kid, a flawless and quiet clone of Jacob, got into the crib despite the fact that the hands were pulling. Before reaching down and gathering the actual Jacob into its arms, the doppelganger gazed at the sleeping infant with eyes that were lifeless and unblinking. It then vanished back under the crib, taking Jacob with it in a move that was too rapid for the camera to record in its entirety. That was the end of the clip. When Nina and David tore up the nursery, however, they discovered something that was far more terrible than they had anticipated. There was a hole buried under the floorboards, which was located beneath the crib. Is a tunnel on the interior. There were hundreds of small handprints etched into the wood. Some of them were recent, while others were decades old. There has always been a stealthy person living in the home. In addition, it was not just interested in playing with Jacob. The intention was to take his position. While Nina was staring at the hole that was located underneath the crib, her scream became stuck in her throat. It seemed as if something had been creeping in and out of the wood for years. Since the wood around the edges had become smooth and worn, many years, it may be longer. One of David's actions was to take a flashlight and shine it into the darkness. The laser failed to penetrate the darkness, but for a fraction of a second, they were able to see it. There is a face. Tiny, pallid, and terribly wrong in every way. In the moments before it disappeared into the darkness with a skittering sound, its eyes reflected the light in a manner similar to that of an animal. With her heart pounding, Nina grabbed Jacob and yanked him into her arms. "We will be departing." Right now, it was described as a wonderful fixer-upper by the real estate agent. Unbeatable value for the money. At this point, Nina got the reason. She searched through old newspapers at the library until she came upon it, which was a tale from the year 1952. Their home had been occupied by a family before to their arrival. 3 people, a couple and their little kid, Daniel. The parents were certain that they heard laughter coming from the nursery space one night. Daniel was discovered to be playing with another youngster, a boy who seemed to be an exact replica of him, when they searched the area. In the AM of the next day, Daniel left. Weeks were spent searching by the cops. The only thing they discovered was a single, very little handprint that had been pushed into the dust that was below the cot. A relocation was made by the family. The home was deserted for a number of years. This was before Nina and David came in. In the evening, Nina blocked Jacob's door with a barrier. David put the floors in place using nails. They came to an agreement that one of the parents would remain up throughout the night while the other would sleep. However, the baby monitor began to make a crackling sound about 3:17 in the morning. Joking around, Nina sprung erect in a hurry. On the screen, Jacob's crib was seen to be empty. After then, the camera began to tilt, as if it had been taken by something. Hissing from the speaker was a voice that was too sharp to be static, and it was a whisper. "We just want to play." Some of the lights flickered. At the entrance, there was a scratching sound. After that, "Make a knock, make a knock, make a knock." The innocent inquiry that Jacob posed lingered in the air, and Nina's blood began to run cold. With a desperate and anxious expression on her face, she got down on her knees and peered beneath the bed. None of it, only shadows here. While she was ruffling Jacob's hair, she stifled a chuckle. "Just your imagination, sweetheart." That night, however, while she lay awake looking at the ceiling, she became aware of the following. Scratching is being done, weakly. Intended to be originating from where Jacob's new bed is located. However, David's side of the mattress was vacant as she stretched out to grab him. At 3:17 in the morning, the digital clock displayed the witching hour. A floorboard in the hallway made a creaking sound. Nina waited with bated breath as the door to the bedroom slowly opened. David's body was silhouetted by the moonlight, yet there was something wrong with it. Rather than being natural, his motions were jerky. "David?" His eyes reflected the light in a manner similar to those of an animal as he turned. Just like the object from the old home, his grin was overly big and spread all across his face. It was David's voice that rasped, "You should have let him play with me." Yet it was no longer his voice. "Now I need a new daddy." At his back, a pair of teeny tiny bare feet floated down the corridor. The darkness was filled with the sound of Jacob's laughing. "We're a family now."